You know, I've been thinking a lot about how the United States uses soft power around the world.
Oh, yeah, like through diplomacy and culture?
Exactly, but especially through foreign aid. It's fascinating how USAID plays into that.
Mm-hmm. USAID. That's the Agency for International Development, right?
Yeah, that's right. So, since its inception, it's been a key tool for the US to, you know, influence other nations without military force.
Right. And that's all part of soft power.
Exactly. Soft power is the ability to influence others through diplomacy, aid, culture, things like that.
Yeah. So how does USAID fit into this?
Well, USAID provides billions of dollars in foreign aid every year, promoting humanitarian relief, economic growth, democracy, but it also benefits the US economy and geopolitical interests.
Interesting. Wait, so it's not just altruistic?
Well, that's the thing. While it does help people, it also serves US interests. It's like a two-way street.
Yeah. Yeah, I see. So can we dive into the origins of USAID? How did it all start?
Sure. So, after World War II, the US launched the Marshall Plan in 1948. It was a $13 billion program to rebuild European economies.
Right. That was to prevent the spread of communism, right?
Exactly. But it also created a huge market for American goods.
Ah,
European countries had to buy American-made products, boosting US manufacturing and agriculture.
so it was helping Europe while also helping the US economy.
Absolutely, it was a win-win in a way. But some saw it as economic imperialism.
Really? Yeah, I can imagine. Forcing US goods into foreign markets might have rubbed some the wrong way.
Exactly, and it excluded Soviet-aligned countries, which escalated Cold War tensions.
Makes sense. So how did USAID come into the picture?
Well, in 1961, President Kennedy established USAID to coordinate US foreign aid. The mission was to help developing nations modernize and to counter Soviet influence.
Got it. So again, a mix of altruism and strategic interests?
Yeah, exactly. Aid often went to US-friendly governments, strengthening their economies and political systems.
But was the aid always going where it was most needed?
Well, sometimes aid was politically motivated, prioritizing US allies over global needs.
That's concerning. So it's not purely humanitarian then?
Yeah, you could say that. It helped maintain US military and intelligence presence in key regions too.
I see. So USAID isn't just about giving aid, but also about furthering US interests.
Exactly. For example, economic development projects often benefit US businesses.
Oh, how so?
Well, aid recipients are often required to buy American-made goods. So it's like creating new markets for US companies.
Ah, clever. Like the Power Africa initiative?
Yes, precisely. That program helps US energy companies expand into African markets.
Interesting. So while it's helping develop infrastructure in Africa, it's also benefiting US businesses.
Exactly. Strengthens economic ties, but critics argue it sometimes prioritizes US economic gain over real development.
Yeah, that could be problematic. What about humanitarian aid?
USAID does provide food, medicine, and emergency aid during crises, like after the Haiti earthquake in 2010.
Right. I remember that. The US was heavily involved.
Definitely. The aid helped stabilize the region, but also gave the US leverage over Haiti's government.
Oh, so even humanitarian aid has strategic benefits.
Yeah, it can strengthen US influence in fragile states.
But is all aid like that? Doesn't it sometimes just help people without strings attached?
Of course, it does save lives and provides relief, but some aid is short-term and doesn't create lasting solutions.
True. That's a challenge. What about USAID's role in intelligence and national security?
Well, USAID projects place American personnel in countries where intelligence access is limited.
Ah,
It's a way to gather information without raising suspicion.
so they can collect information on the ground?
Exactly. USAID workers often collect economic and political data used by US agencies.
Interesting. That sounds like a bit of a gray area.
Yeah, some programs overlap with covert operations, aiding intelligence efforts.
Wow. Could that lead to distrust among local populations?
It can. Some nations see USAID as a cover for US espionage.
Not ideal. That's not good for building relationships.
No, it's a delicate balance, but from a US perspective, it helps monitor political stability without direct military involvement.
Right. So it's all part of the soft power strategy.
Exactly. The US uses foreign aid to advance national security, economic growth, and political influence.
Yeah. And now with China's Belt and Road Initiative, there's competition.
Yes, China's funding massive infrastructure projects, challenging US soft power.
Indeed. So how is the US responding?
USAID is countering by funding democracy-building programs and economic aid.
Got it. Like in Africa, where China builds roads and railways and the US focuses on education and governance?
Exactly. Each is trying to expand influence in different ways.
Fascinating. Pros and cons on both sides, I guess.
Definitely. US soft power expands influence without military intervention and encourages democratic governance.
Correct. But some aid programs might interfere in local politics.
Yes. And there's competition from Chinese and Russian aid initiatives.
True. So what about the future of USAID? Can it adapt to new global challenges?
I think so. The US is shifting focus to compete with China's influence, expanding efforts in climate change, cybersecurity, AI development.
Interesting. But can USAID balance humanitarian goals with US interests?
That's the big question. There's a call for more transparency and increasing focus on local partnerships instead of US-led projects.
Makes sense. Should foreign aid be about global development or America's national advantage?
It's a tough debate. Some argue it should be purely humanitarian, others say it must serve national and economic security.
Exactly. Well, maybe it can be both.
Yeah, perhaps. It's about finding the right balance.
Agreed. So, is USAID a tool for global good or just another way for the US to maintain power?
Maybe it's a bit of both. It plays a dual role, helping people in need while advancing US interests.
That's fair. It's complicated but important to understand.
Definitely. We need to keep these conversations going.
Absolutely. Thanks for shedding light on this.
My pleasure. It's been a great discussion.